I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Next is the approval of the agenda.
Everything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next is the approval of last week's minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve last week's minutes.
I'll just abstain because I wasn't here.
I will second those minutes. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries.
I didn't abstain, did I? No, I should. Old habits are hard to break.
Next is the approval of claims for payment.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims for payment this week.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now I have is an action on the compensation board recommendations. The recommendations were the county attorney at 0, the auditor at 1, the recorder at 1.5, the sheriff at 2, supervisors at 0, and the treasurer at 1.5. I can entertain any motions. We sent out a 1% increase for everybody for raises. What the supervisors were at 0, so it doesn't matter what we do there. They're the only one that we can pull out separately. Otherwise, we have to break them down evenly. And if a 1%, if we were to take the sheriff down to 1% is what we recommended, we'd have to cut the other ones down in half as well. That would be what I would favor at the highest. So I can entertain anything you guys would like to say.
I think I would agree with that too. I guess I don't know what BJ's thoughts are.
Well, I've just done my research, and the auditor's position is, where it's at now is underpaid. Recorder under, sheriff we're getting there, but still a little under. Treasurer looks like it's about average. So, but in the same token, I'm concerned, with just budgets are budgets and numbers are numbers. The pool is what it is. So I do concur with Lance and Renee on looking at things the way Lance laid them out. So
Okay, I'll make a motion to cut the recommendations in half.
I'll second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Rick, you don't have a problem with cutting 0 in half, do you? Okay.
But just to clarify, it usually comes out in the paper that it's always 0. Well, it's 0 because I asked for 0.
Yeah, it's
Right.
the same with us.
That's what I ran on in my campaign, that I would not ask for a pay increase. I felt the pay and the benefits, although you mentioned that the pay is the average is substantially lower than several part-time county attorneys of similarly situated population counties. But I felt when I ran that with the benefits and the health insurance that it was reasonable. I continue to maintain that. That's why I always just ask for 0.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Now, I have a Hardin County City River Access Dispute, private counsel authorization. Rick, we've been working on this for a while. It's over an entry to a conservation area. Yeah, and what you're asking us to do is authorize you to seek extra help in this.
Correct. I think that the issues are complicated and complex enough that private counsel will benefit both the county and the conservation board by having someone who has the expertise in these areas. I've worked as a co-counsel with Mark McCormick, former Iowa Supreme Court Justice, on several real estate related issues with good success. He has a good reputation. He's very prepared, very efficient, very effective, and have spoken to him, and his firm doesn't have any conflicts they'd be able to assist. And what is nice with that firm is that there would be a one-stop shop. If this was an issue that would be appealed, they could certainly handle the appeal. I think the first thing they would do would be to review all the information and make a conclusion on the merits of the county's position. And then if they believe that it is a good case, and they would continue forward in trying to reach some resolution. A resolution couldn't be worked out, then obviously it would end up in some kind of litigation or mediation. So I think with my time restraints and needing more time on this project, I think private counsel makes sense. We've been dealing with this for a couple of years, and I think it needs to come to a head and get it taken care of.
What kind of funding and where does the funding come from on your suggestion?
I can't tell you.
Okay.
Whether there's funds in the general fund or not. I mean, I think the precedent for this is several years ago we had a trust issue that private counsel was needed for, and that ended up being appealed to the Supreme Court. We won on that, so private counsel was retained on that. So I'm just not sure on the funds. If I have funds available in my budget, I'm certainly willing to contribute toward that. And I think that this would be a bill that would be split between the two active parties. That would be both the supervisors and the conservation board, because he would be providing legal counsel to both. So as far as an estimate on fees, I really don't know, because I just don't know at this stage of the game whether it's something that can be resolved. The property owner certainly hasn't made any indications that she wants to do any kind of compromise. So I would anticipate it's going to be a litigated matter. So I think it's money well spent.
Okay.
What's the firm name?
Bellin, B-E-L-I-N, Bellin McCormick.
Okay. I'll make a motion to retain Bellin McCormick to be part of the Hardin City River Access matter.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is that how you want the motion, or do you just want it set as for you to obtain private counsel?
No, I think that motion's fine.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
Next I have is utility permits. I have none. Better make sure. Nope, I have none. And secondary roads. I don't have Daryl here today, so.
If we could get the weather to cooperate, Daryl and those guys' jobs would be a whole lot easier. This morning, they did a really, for kind of the snow sneaking in early morning, they did a really good job, so things were in good shape this morning.
From there, I have other business. Have a group here. I don't know if you were coming for anything, or, okay.
Just to kind of find out what's going on.
Okay. Well, from there, I can ask for.
You have a question?
Could I ask about this, this access, the Hardin City River access?
Yeah, it's a Hardin City access. It's a conservation point. It's been there since the 80s, I believe. It's where the old bridge was, and it's been on the map with the DNR. It's more of a question for conservation to answer than I can. They can give you a more clear answer. But what it is the conflict. It's a shared driveway that goes into a property, and then it branches down to the river. And they're having the owner is having trouble with people parking in their driveways, walking up to their house when it needs. But on the same token, it's been a point access mapped, I believe, on the state DNR even,
I believe so.
So that's for lower,
into the Iowa River there.
yeah, from Eagle City Park there? Is that where?
Hardin
we're
City.
talking?
Hardin.
Hardin City.
And there is a current, there is an easement on it, and, so it's kind of,
And so what's the dispute about?
Well, the owner has put gates up restricting access even from the ditch to the bridge itself. And her hopes are for to not have an access there anymore. But some of
So
the,
is that much traffic? That it's-
I believe it
In the
does get a
summer,
lot of traffic.
especially.
In the summer.
The
yeah.
kayakers and tubers
Tubers.
probably.
Sure.
It's
They
also
actually-
the
It's-
midpoint of a long stretch.
No, seriously, it's poisonous.
Well, I mean,
It's what?
it's
The
a
river
huge,
is toxic. My son won't let his kids tube in it. It's
yeah.
not fit.
It's bigger business in the county.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I hope they understand the risk they're taking.
Hmm.
I have a question about something this gentleman said about, you're talking about compensation, and he mentioned health benefits. Is that for you folks too?
Yes.
It's
You
all
get
ca-
insurance
it's all-
benefits?
Yes.
All county employees.
I see, I see.
The employees make a small contribution to that, but
But you do get benefits, and you meet okay, all right. But your meeting is once a week, is
No.
that correct?
Our
No,
our regular
the
board
regular
meeting
board meeting is once a week.
Okay.
But we're each on like 9 other
So
boards
then,
besides
is this your
this.
full-time job? I mean, I'm making.
Pretty
it.
much.
I
really-
would
pretty much.
say it's my first job over farming.
Okay,
Is it considered full-time? They consider it as a part-time position, not a
I
full-time
see.
position, but the
Okay.
hours you put in are well over a full-time
Okay.
position.
And then you're all assessed different boards to be on, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
okay.
Yep.
Sorry for my ignorance.
No,
No,
that's
no,
you're
fine.
fine.
You know what? I wish the public knew
Yeah.
that last month I put about 700 miles on going to meetings. I ate dinner with my son at my kitchen table 2 nights, so usually Saturday and Sunday
Okay.
nights. So it's very involved.
Yeah.
I'm not making excuses.
No,
I just think
I-
people
I-
need to know what the
yes,
daily life
right,
is.
right.
Where there's 3 of us, my colleagues
why
in
we're here.
yeah, and my colleagues in Grundy County. I went to a meeting and they couldn't believe there's 5 supervisors in Grundy County, and they were disappointed that they had 2 and 3 boards assigned to each of them.
Oh,
And I
and
said,
it's just you 3 folks then?
Yeah.
On the Hardin
Right.
County Supervisors?
So are they paid the same way in Grundy County?
very similar.
Are they really? Where do they get their funds?
Taxes.
Property
Same place
taxes.
we
I mean,
do.
why are we falling behind in that regard, as far as funding?
To some aspects, but it's a fiscal
The-
responsibility.
The board is not according to, and that's why the recommendation was at 0.
The
Let
board
me-
is not what?
I'm gonna,
I mean, we've
I'll
asked
just
for
share.
no pay increase.
Oh, I see.
so this
yeah.
was the compensation board, the salaries, and the compensation board meets and determines what they recommend the raises be.
Yeah.
So the county attorney, as he explained, asked for no
Yeah,
raise,
yeah.
as did the supervisors.
Okay, okay.
Who's on the compensation board?
Be all these people that are listed. You can have this copy.
Okay. And that's done once a
They're,
year?
they're
Yes.
appointed, yeah, and they're appointed by, each elected official gets to appoint one person to represent them. The Board of Supervisors has 2 appointees on the compensation board, so that's how the compensation board is composed.
So you recommend your own people to recommend your raises?
It's a representative.
Yeah, it's a
What they're-
representative.
What they're based on, they're bound by the code also as to what they can recommend for raises. They can't just make up fictitious numbers. It's off hard data of where you're recovering, how you compare to other counties. It
So as you
might
see
And
my
size
others
notes
it.
like
on there,
positions.
I went to the state's website and I can tell you that, I'll pick on Sheriff McDaniel because he's in the room, that I can look at what every sheriff it makes in the state of Iowa,
Okay.
and looking at comparative counties in size and administrative duties, what the average is. I can pick on Michelle, she's in the room because I can look at the same data for county treasurers. So we want to make sure that compensation board isn't comparing apples to oranges. If we were not doing that, Sheriff McDaniel, compared to the Sheriff Bill McCarthy in Polk County, he makes $158,000. Sure. And so,
Sounds good, huh? But I bet he doesn't want those headaches.
correct.
So you didn't go with these percentage, you have them all?
We cut them in
Correct.
half.
Which is
We,
rather on
we
the low
cannot,
side.
we cannot increase, we can only,
Decrease.
Decrease
or
evenly.
approve their recommendation or decrease.
So what you approved today was half of what is on there?
What was recommended, yes.
And that was why? Because,
Budgetary reasons.
yeah, so we have a problem with our budget now.
No. It's how much do we want to tax?
Yeah.
Well, right.
Well, the other thing
Yeah.
is you look at salary and benefits. So if insurance premiums go up 10%, you know, we have to determine, would the employee rather have the same benefits, or would they rather have a 2% raise?
Do they give you that information?
What's
Do they
that?
tell you that? Do they-
A lot of our department heads do.
Unfortunately, with the compensation board, insurance isn't readily available to use as a tool, yes.
Right.
Comparable tool.
Is
The
your-
wages are,
Yeah.
Is property tax then the source of your?
yes.
Oh, yeah.
One of the sources.
Property
There's
tax.
other sources
And what-
too.
And what you
sources?
don't get from the state now. And what, also what you don't get compensated by the state.
Right.
What do you mean
But very
compensated
little
by-
comes
Well, I
through
mean-
state coffers, like
You don't
gas
get
tax,
much from the state,
not.
not
We-
mental health
No.
or anything?
Mental health, yes, that's regionally.
That's more of a region thing
regionally
now
funded.
instead of just county.
Yeah, we
So-
are told a set rate for mental health.
Yeah, and
That
that's been
might-
declining, as I understand it, over the years.
The set rate?
Well, the
Yeah.
what we get from the state has been declining for our mental health needs.
Well, I can't tell you what the state's giving on that. That's on a regional side,
And that's a whole different group of people that deal with it.
Yeah.
that's
We
one of
used
the
to
boards
have
that
to
beats
tax
But
it.
for our
I
county,
sit
but-
on the board for the mental health,
Okay.
and so our region has 10 counties, and I can tell you, I have a degree in nursing, I worked in mental health nursing, worked as a firefighter paramedic for a long time. The services that our 10 county region can offer are better than probably anywhere else in the state. When it comes to services for chemical dependency, for depression, anxiety, for mental health service in the jails, for elderly services, our region has better resources than the other regions in the state.
Why would that be?
Because,
We
the
got to
leader-
design it.
what's that?
Oh,
We
you
got,
did?
we got
yeah.
to design it.
We,
Okay.
and instead of redundant systems, so we have transitional living homes in our district or in the region. We're kind of the poster child for, we're not going to, if we can offer a service in Hardin County, we can tell somebody in Marshall County, hey, don't do the same service, we offer it here. But the whole region would benefit from a different service, so there's not reinventing of the wheel. We don't need a bunch of redundant services. We need good, high-quality services that are unique, that fit more people's needs. I mean, mental health is a huge concern to me. Between veterans, between corrections issues, between substance abuse, between Alzheimer's, dementia. Every population has special needs when it comes to mental health. But given the funds we have, we need to utilize them and not have redundant systems all over, but have the best systems within our region that we can pool and share resources. And Lynn Adams in our community services division and our region does a phenomenal job. We really should be proud of it. There's always room to improve. We got our kind of audit from the state and we met or exceeded every core standard, and some of the optional standards, we are leaders in the state.
I think this would be really wonderful to put in the news and just inform the public
I agree.
about, because we don't know this stuff. And it'd be very good. Now, the only drawback I can see is on a regional basis, that means more travel.
Right.
And does that is an impact on people who need those services. So how does that work out with this travel?
Well,
10 counties.
Yeah,
is
what are the
10
10
counties is a
More
long way.
central?
it goes from a couple counties north all the way down. There's almost 430,000 people in our region. And so then it goes to all the way to Warren County and then Madison County.
So that's the only negative
Right,
that I can
but
see,
some-
is people
but-
who are ill have a hard time
Right.
accessing stuff
Yep.
probably.
But you might have the same services in different areas of the
Right.
region.
Instead of every county having maybe an inpatient chemical dependency program for our 10 county region, there might be 3. And then maybe instead of having 10 separate transitional housing units, we might have 3. So we try to keep it geographically,
What do we have close to us, right here?
transitional housing.
Yeah, some of those.
Okay,
some
so
of
we
those-
just opened up a transitional living housing in Iowa Falls. We have Central Iowa Recovery that does substance abuse counseling, and actually they have people that come here. In our jail here, we have a large population. If we have somebody in mental health crisis, we have telemedicine, so using a webcam and TV, somebody being held in the Hardin County Jail, we can get them in touch with a psychiatrist, psychologist, somebody while they're in the jail to see, is the problem they're really having a criminal problem, or is it they're schizophrenic, bipolar, OCD, and maybe it's a medication thing, so we can address those things here. Then we have our elder services. We have our friendship club in Iowa Falls where people can go. So that's just the beginning of what we can offer here in the county. We have our caseworkers. We have our advocate that we split with Marshall County to advocate for our mentally ill.
Is transitional housing, like prisoners coming back?
No, this would be,
No.
let's say you have somebody, I'll just throw out a hypothetical. Maybe you have a young woman with Down syndrome in her 20s, lived with mom and dad pass away,
Okay.
that for 30, 60, 90 days until we can figure out what
Okay. Gotcha.
living situation would be best for that person. We could transition them into a safe, environment with good
So
supervision.
adjudicated people are not in this
Typically
at all?
not. Typically not. You might have somebody that got out of inpatient alcohol rehab that needs 30 days to make enough money to pay for first and last month's rent. You might have a single mom that got out of an abusive situation that, maybe the family doesn't see eye to eye on how we're going to transition her and her family to, a full-time living situation. It's those situations like that. It's not a halfway house or board of
Oh,
corrections.
that's what, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But that's a fair question.
Sorry.
Yep.
So
No.
can we get on a website to find out what the 10 counties are?
Yeah. I will give you my card before you leave today. You contact me, and actually Lynn Adams, our community service person, is supposed to be here pretty soon. He could also explain more of the programs because we're meeting with
I kind of
him.
remember when they were going to this regional thing, I talked to Lynn, I heard Lynn speak a little bit about the changeover, and at the time it was an issue about Hardin County was putting out more money to the pot
Mhm.
than others might have been.
And now, out of the 10 counties, there's one county that cannot levy as much as the other 9. And it's just, that's how it's going to be. And
I believe that we just approved that. I'm on that committee, the
Right,
finance committee
yep.
for that. We just approved that we've got all the counties gonna be at the same levy rate for
Right.
this coming.
So we're all going to match that. Now, our region's lucky because I had lunch with a Dubuque County supervisor. Dubuque County kicked Johnson County out of their region last week because Johnson County would not levy enough money but wanted the same services.
So are all the counties that are in this region, are they pretty much the same size and population wise?
No, when the regional concept was developed, they wanted a cap on population and a lower limit. And we're the 4th largest region. And I think since we were leaders in developing the region, we got some say, and we kind of went and maybe handpicked some of the counties that had good resources that we could pool our resources with. So, we have Franklin County, they're a little smaller. Marshall County is a little bigger, but there's around 430,000 in our region. Then there's one region, I believe, that has like 12,000 people in it. So the state's saying, hey, we might need to have that region be absorbed and do some.
They also, at the time, we got to choose which counties we wanted in the region.
Oh, okay.
If we did not, they would put counties together to create a
So,
region.
What kind of feedback are you getting from the population and the families of the population being served about this new system?
So since I've been in office since January, I've been to 2 meetings, and we had other people from other regions at our meeting because they think what we're doing is very successful. The families of the clients and patients we serve, great things. The transitional housing, we have 3 of these homes in the region now, and we've heard a couple testimonials, written testimonials from people saying, this helped me get through. This was, a place to lay my head. It was, a better situation than what I had and got me back on my feet. Thank you. The chemical dependency issues that we have in the state are so evolving. We went from being big into the meth use. Now we're seeing heroin and opioid addiction. And so we're having to try to, change the direction of our substance abuse work to target that population of the opioid abusers, because it's not the same as treating somebody with a meth addiction or a prescription painkiller addiction, those things. The other thing we're finding is that our special needs populations with mental and physical disabilities can be addressed both by their, increasing their involvement in society, where we used to institutionalize anybody with Down syndrome back in the 50s, 60s. You went to Independence, you went to Glenwood, and you were locked away. You weren't a productive member of society. Very few of those people that with Down syndrome was diagnosed back then had families that could take care of them like they needed to. Now we're finding out that a Down syndrome diagnosis is not a death sentence. It's not a locked up in a cell sentence. It's somebody helping you at McDonald's. It's helping you at the local hardware store. And so the fact that the community services are partnering with workforce development to integrate special needs populations into society, it's shown they live longer, they're happier, they're healthier, and those are amazing things. So
it sounds like there's positive feedback. Where do people, the negative feedback, who do they appeal to? Where do they go to, if there is any?
You know what? You hit the nail on the head. I haven't heard any negative. We read about that in the newspaper. We see it on the news where, some patients were abused verbally and physically at the Glenwood Hospital by staff. Those are the negative things, and those have to be resolved, and we need to have people with servants' hearts in those positions that won't abuse the system,
But
won't
in
abuse the
our
patient.
region, where do people?
If you have a concern, you can address that with Lynn Adams at
Okay.
Community Services. We have somebody from, many agencies, that can take those complaints, along with the elderly services. The Ombudsman's office is a resource for that.
Thank you for the tutorial.
Not a problem.
Well, from there, any other business? Hearing none, I can ask for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned. Thank you.